Colorado's Shedeur Sanders and Miami's Cam Ward are the top two quarterbacks in the upcoming NFL draft. But who should the Las Vegas Raiders select to get the franchise back on track? You asked for it and we delivered. It's Fan Friday, and you, the fans, chose today's topic for Point of View. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Let us know who you think the Raiders should draft in April. There's really only two options for the Raiders to go with if they land the number one pick, and any other option would just be flat out wrong. Ward and Sanders are far and away the best QB prospects in this class, and both could have long NFL careers. But who has a leg up with just a few months before the draft? Let's dive into it, starting with Shedeur Sanders. Sanders began his college career at Jackson State, where he threw for 70 touchdowns in 2 seasons. He followed his father Deion to Colorado, where Shedeur proved he was one of the best quarterback talents in the country. After winning just one conference game last season, Sanders went 7-2 in Big 12 play this season, which is the most wins by the Buffaloes in conference play since 2001. And he put up some spectacular stats along the way. He completed nearly 75% of his passes, which was the best rate in all of college football among QBs with at least 100 attempts in the regular season. He was also second in touchdowns, third in yards, and number 5 in attempts. A lot was put on him to keep the offense rolling, and he exceeded the expectations at nearly every stop. And it looks like it's going to transfer to the NFL just fine. While he can get outside the pocket and make plays like the best of them, he may have been the best pocket passer in the country this season, and he excels at throwing his receivers open. Pass catchers will want to play with him for that reason alone, because we all know some current NFL QBs that are throwing their receivers into harm's way all too often. If my opinion on Shedeur translating to the league isn't enough, here's what Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire said about the QB before their matchup in early November. Listen in.
I think that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football. If I was an NFL GM and I had a pick to where I needed a quarterback, he'd be the first quarterback taken in this year's draft. He should be, and so I have a lot of respect for him.
That's some serious conviction from an opposing head coach before the two teams even hit the field. And while he might be exactly right, we got to give Cam Ward his fair shake as well. But before we get more into that, here are the results of this week's poll question. Thanks to everyone who voted. Look out for another question on Monday. Now back to Ward. He played 4 seasons at Incarnate Word in Washington State to start his college career, where he threw for nearly 14,000 yards and 119 touchdowns. Those numbers are insane, but he just played his best season with the Hurricanes against much stiffer competition. He led the nation in touchdown passes with 36 and finished second in passing yards with just over 4,000. He completed a career-high 67.4% of his passes and led an offense that ranked first in the country in yards and points per game. Compared to last season, they gained over 100 yards more and 13 points more per game. I think it's safe to say Ward was a huge reason for that jump. And while it didn't result in a college football playoff appearance, they finished just outside of the picture a year after they finished 9th in the ACC. As far as translating his skills to the NFL, he's got a lot of Patrick Mahomes in him. To be as clear as possible, I'm not saying he's going to reach that level with Mahomes is at now, but the way he uses his legs as well as different arm slots to get passes off reminds me a lot of the 3-time Super Bowl champ. And the last piece to the puzzle for all great NFL QBs is leadership, and everything we've seen and heard shows he has plenty of that. Here's Miami head coach Mario Cristobal during spring practices last March when asked what has impressed him the most about their new transfer QB.
Leadership. I think a guy that can take command at the line of scrimmage. I think that's critical. I think, I remember blocking for quarterbacks. I love those guys that could look at a receiver that might complain about not getting a ball, or a lineman that might be overly tired, or a tight end that may, and say, we ain't having that. We're gonna go. And it's something that we have always wanted and always want to have at the University of Miami. I think he brings that and more, but he certainly he can make plays because he understands what everybody's doing. And I think it's important for a quarterback to really understand what the guys up front are doing, where the free hitters might be, how to put ourselves in a good play, how to make adjustments, how to take over an offensive system. And he runs it at a really, really high level in a short amount of time.
If he saw that leadership he mentions back then, it just confirms everything we saw and heard this season. And while I think Sanders has some of those same capabilities, I just think Cam Ward is going to translate better in the NFL. And again, I don't think the Raiders can go wrong either way, but Ward is the more surefire option, and in my opinion, he would 100% get the Raiders their first postseason win since 2002 within his first couple of seasons. All I know for sure, though, is that I can't wait for the draft to see who they believe is the future of the black and silver. I mean, they nailed their first pick last year. Can you imagine Brock Bowers with a real QB? That duo could run the division for years. And we knew right away that Bowers was a steal of the draft. For more on that, check out this past episode of Point of View. Enjoy the weekend. We hope to see you again next week.